a good idea about the topic called as What Are You Anyway? So, which is written by Lawrence Hill, right? So, if you talk about this topic, What Are You Anyway? So, the story actually begins with a little girl whose name is Carol, uh, who was sitting on an airplane. Uh,
All alone.
yeah, so she is traveling alone to visit her grandparents. A white couple to you could find out that who also sit next to her, and they start, you know, talking about her. They ask her questions like what would you color your father on a coloring book, right? So this is the kind of a question which is which was asked to her. The little girl gets fed up with their invasive questions. So when something which is called as illogical, no logic, and something which is trying to make a gender discrimination, something which is trying to make a racism, right? And what she did, now she yelled. She yelled them for them to stop. So if you see that the stewardess or stewards, right? Stewards then ask the girl to come sit next to her. She agrees and leaves the couple, right? This is what a very small story. If you observe that the story is not so big, or the story is not trying to present in an elaborate manner. The story simply highlights the theme which is indicating as a what means the theme is indicating as the racism. Now, what do you mean by racism? Now,
So
when you
racism means when people are discriminated according to the color of their skin.
yes, so on the basis of
That is why
uh,
discrimination
the,
existed.
on the basis of the theme of the topic, uh, racism, it is the main theme of the story. The couple could see from Carol's complexion that she is of mixed race, mixed race. However, they still bombard her with questions. They asked her if her father was a Negro and if her mom, you could find out that was a Chinese, which are very straightforward and also, disrespectful questions. The story proves that people's ignorance allows them to judge a book by its cover. It also shows the, innocence of children. Carol was confused by their, offensive questions because she did not care if her parents were from different race or different, religion.
Different places of the world.
Yeah. So even if you talk about that, the story also presents another theme that's called as a discrimination. The first one is called as a racism, whereas the second one is indicating about discrimination. When we talk about discrimination, it is a very, evident theme. It's a witness in the story because the couple found it strange and unbelievable that a black man married a white woman. If a white child was sitting next to the couple, they would not have asked her these uncomfortable questions. This further proves the couple's discrimination towards people of color. People of color. That's what you would find out on the topic called as a what. So what are you anyway? So Lawrence Hills, so who beautifully described this story, right? So even Lawrence, if you look into the background of the Lawrence, who is the son of the two immigrants, he is a mulatto because his mom was white and his father was black. His parents worked on several human rights movement, which inspired many of his work. When he was younger, he wanted to pursue running, but he was not that good, so he resigned himself to writing, right? So that's what you would find out. Even if I'm talking about the author's background, so the professional life, that is what called as a personal life. The professional life, he has worked in many countries such as Canada, Spain, France. He is the author of 10 books, including the novels, the Book of Negroes, and the Illegal. He won the Rogers Writers Trust Fiction Prize, the Commonwealth Writers Prize for Best Book, and both CBC Radio's Canada Reads and Radio Canada's Combat Des Livre. So if you observe that, what you can draw here, now here you would find out the author tries to present something which is realistic and also means indicating the innocuous nature of the children. Even you would find out when you read the chapter, the main and the protagonist of the story is none other than Carol, a child whose age is around 11 to 13 years. She is mixed. She is the protagonist of the story, right? You also find out another, what do you say, that character whose name is called as a Betty Norton, Betty, Betty Norton. So the character Betty Norton was the antagonist of the story. Now, what do you mean by antagonist? You can say that a villain. Yeah. She is married to Henry. And if you find out that she's a woman of insensitive, right, and also racist in nature. Whereas if you talk about next one whose name is called as a Henry Norton. Hello, are you there, guys?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are here.
Yes, sir. We are there, sir.
Okay. Then
Turn on your videos.
you will also find out another character whose name is called as a Henry Norton. He too also was the antagonist, right? So, and he would be characterized as an ignorant or called as the ignorant, inconsiderate, and racist also, right? So,
Then I thought you were going to say that he was not racist. That would bring a great change to the story.
okay. So, if you look into that topic or the story, so the story is beautifully decorated. Even the kind of vocabulary, if you see, you will find out the vocabulary called as a mulatto, mulatto. So what is that mulatto? Now mulatto is called as a person of mixed white and black ancestry, especially a person with one white and one black parent. So therefore, this whole story is picturized and set in the place called as aeroplane, right? And the kind of a discussion made between the couple with the 11 to 13 years old a child, right? So this actually indicate about the kind of a mentality, right, who have. Now you will find out that the people, they do have. So uh, it shows the kind of a prejudice, like it gives us the idea that there comes a time in life when everyone grows up, and it is to be almost odd sorry, because there is not a certain age that one automatically grows up, not even at the age of 18. You did not wake up on your 18th birthday and have this amazing aha light bulb moment like they portray in the movies. Over time, you will find out that simply get a deeper, more meaningful understanding of the world and life for what it truly is. Sometimes you believe being a child and being innocent is so much easier. Being a child and being innocent is so much easier. And you would give anything to go back to those of the days. However, being so naive, naive means called as a inexperienced in such an immense world as this, definitely has its own discomforts and unsettling attributes or qualities. One would begin to believe that a child would not have to grow up so quickly or understand a world so degrading and horrific. But in a world such as this, right, ignorance cannot and will not always be bliss, right? So you need to open your mouth. You need to speak up against the racism. You need to speak up against the discrimination. You need to speak up against the biased. You need to speak up against the means wrong. So as far as you believe that also no one should feel persecuted or punished because their skin is complexion, and especially if it is a child. If I'm talking about the story called as a What Are You Anyway, written by Lawrence Hill. So the theme is a prejudice in nature. Prejudice means biased. So it tries to give us the idea, learning to not judge a book by its cover. The story is, as I have already pointed, the story begins with a what? Little girl named Carol. Carol is seated in seat number called as a 12A, right by a window with her little doll, whose name that have also name that called as a Amy. Carol is a beautiful mixed girl. Why it is called as a mixed? Now she belonged to a parent called as a means black and white, right? So she is a mixed girl, but at the same time her parents love her. So, but at the same time, in the kind of a setting where she was represented, so she examines her handful of freckles, which are tiny ink spots dotting her cheeks. She checks for pimples but finds none, only the clear complexion that her father sometimes calls. So milk, 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 chocolate, chocolate, as he burrows into her neck with kisses. The story continues with a white couple who who you would assume to be fairly young, questioning her about her complexion. They asked Carol that if she uh, were to have a coloring book, so generally like elderly people or old people font for the children, and they ask certain activities they do, right? So what color would she proceed to color her parents? Carol, being as young as she was not uh, understood, she did not understand, even you can say she did not understand what was asked to her. She was by herself on this flight going to visit her grandparents. She answered saying she never used just one color for her parents. After stating that she would color her father brown and her mother yellow or red, she is completely, confused, baffled, right? Oh, and has more than enough. Nothing got to me, means you can say that more in this story than means where it says. Carol feels Carol feels ashamed at her stupidity, that a tear races down her cheek. That's called as a tear flows down her cheek. That bothers her because if you see that no child should be made to feel ashamed. Even it also made us a kind of a worried part when you read the story. You don't have the right to make a child feel ashamed because of who they are or what kind of a complexion or what was their complexion or what is their complexion. No child, no person should be judged for how they look, just as you would not judge a book by its cover. You should not judge a person based on their color. That is a very, valuable lesson for everyone and also anyone to learn. So the story continues again as it is stated. The stewards begins to take Carol to sit somewhere else and also calm down her. The story ends by the lady, Mrs. Narton, telling her husband, talk about sensitivity. However, you feel that if anyone were in that situation, naturally they would be upset, right? So quickly, I need you people to read the story. Can you see it? Go ahead. Videsh, can you read it?
Yes, sir, I can, sir.
Go ahead.
So, what are you anyway? Lawrence Hill. Carol settles in seat 12A beside the window, puts her doll on a vacant seat and snaps open her purse. She holds up a mirror. She looks into her own dark eyes. She examines her handful of freckles, which are tiny ink spots dotting her cheeks. She checks for pimples but finds none. She checks only the clear complexion that her father sometimes calls milk chocolate as he burrows into her neck with kisses.
Sir, in our book,
This
it
is yours,
only
I
clear
believe.
complexion that her father calls milk chocolate.
Yeah, go ahead.
What?
You continue with
Sir,
it.
okay, sir. Huh. This is yours, I believe. A big man with a sunburned face is holding her doll upside down. May I have a please? Carol says. He turns the doll right side up. A black doll. I never saw such a thing. Her name is Amy. May I have her please? Henry Norton, cries the man's wife. Give that doll back this instant. Carol tucks the doll close to the window. The man sits beside Carol. The woman takes Assel's seat. Sir, what does that mean?
That's by the side, or you can say that next to her.
Okay, okay. Aceless seat. Don't mind
Azels,
him.
Azels.
Isel's seat. Don't mind him, the woman says, leaning towards Carol. By the way, I am Betty Norton, and he is my husband, Henry. The man next to Carol hogs the armrest, his feet sprawn onto her side, and he keeps looking at her. The
Good.
stewardess passes by, checking seat belts. Everything okay? May I go to the bathroom? Carol asks. Do you think you could wait? We are about to take off. Okay. Carol looks out the window, sees the Toronto airport buildings fall behind, and wonders if her parents are watching. Say goodbye, she instructs Amy, waving the doll's hand. Say goodbye to mom and dad. The engine starts to life. Her seat hums. They taxi down the runway. She feels a hollowness in her stomach when they lift into the air. Her ears plug and stay that way until the plane levels out over pillows of cotton. They burn as bright as sun, so that that is what the other side of the clouds look like. Excuse me. The man is talking to her. You can go to the bathroom now. You know. No, that's all right, Carol says. Traveling all alone, are you? Carol swallows with difficulty. Where do you live? He asked. Don Mills. Oh, really? He says. Were you born there? Yes. And your parents? My mother was born in Chicago and my father was in Tuscan. And you are going to visit your grandparents. She nods. And your parents let you travel alone. It's only an airplane ride. And I am a big girl. The man lowers the back of his seat, chuckling. He whispers to his wife, No. Carol hears her whisper back. You ask her. Carol yawns, holds Amy's hand, and goes to sleep. The clinking of silverware wakens her, but she hears the man and woman talking about her, so she keeps her eyes shut. I don't know, Henry, says the woman. Don't ask me, ask her. I'm kind of curious, he says. Aren't you? Carol can't make out the woman's answer, but then she hears her say, I just can't see. It's not fair to children. I don't mind them mixed, but the world isn't ready for it. They're neither one thing nor the other. Henry, wake that child and see if she wants to eat.
Okay, Susan, can you read?
Yes, sir. When the man taps her shoulder, Carol opens her eyes. I have to go to the bathroom, she says. But they're going to serve the meal, the man says. Henry, if she wants to go out, Let her out. She's only a child. Carol romances. She's definitely not a child. She is a young lady. She can identify Dramboy, Kalua, and the Grand Marnier by once in the easel. Carol realizes she has forgotten Anne. Henry Norton hands her the door. Derry, go, and don't fall out of the plane now. There's a big hole down by the toilet. There is not, Carol says. There isn't any such thing. She heads down the easel with an eye out just in case there's a hole after all. Coming out of the toilet, Carol fins the stewardess. Excuse me, miss, could I sit somewhere else? The woman frowns. Why? I don't like the window. Is that it? Is that the only possible reason? Well, yes. I'm sorry, we don't have time to move you now. You are serving a meal. Ask me later if you like. After Carol has eaten and had a tray taken and had been served a hot face towel, the man says, what are you anyway? My wife and I were wondering. Carol blinks, sees the man's clear blue eyes, and drops her head. What do you mean? She says. You know, what are you? What race? Carol mouths drop. Race? What is that? She does not understand. Yet she senses the man is asking a bad question. It is as if she is asking her something dirty or touching her in a bad place. She wishes her mom and dad were there. They could tell what race meant.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yes. Uh,
Go ahead.
that dolls of yours is black, Henry Norton says. That's a Negro doll. That's race. Negro. What's your race? The question still confuses her. Put it this way. What is your father? The question baffles her. What is her father? He is her dad. He is her dad, and every Sunday morning he makes pancake for the whole family and lets Carol pour hot syrup on them, and afterwards he sits her on his lap and tells story. Mrs. Norton leans to her Carol. See, you had a coloring book. What color would you make your dad? I never use just one color. Okay. What color would you make his face? Brown. And your mother? Carol imagines a blank page. What would she put in her mother's face? She has to put something in there. She can't leave it blank. I don't know. Sure you do. How would you color your mother's face? Yellow. Carol sees Mr. and Mrs. Norton look at each other. Is your mother Chinese? Mr. Norton asks. No. Are you sure your color her yellow? No. What else might you color her? What else? Carol feels ashamed at her stupidity. A tear races down her cheek. Red, she says finally. Red. You can't color a face red. Is your mother white? Is she like me? Her face, is it the same color as mine? Yes, and your father's brown. Carol. And when you say brown, do you mean he's a negro? Yes, of course our father is a negro. Miss Norton wanted to know all along if his father a negro. Why didn't she just ask? Show your list. Mrs. Norton says. You're a mulatto. Carol's lips quiver. What is a mulatto? Why do you keep asking her what is she? She isn't anything. So is that it? You're a mulatto. Do you know what a mulatto is? Don't you? Haven't your parents taught you that word? Approaching a cart of juice, the steward looks up and smiles at Carol. That gives us a rush of courage. Leave me alone, she screams at Mrs. Lawton. Passing the stairs. Stewardess spills her drink. Mrs. Lawton hits back hard in her seat, her hands raised, fingers spread. Carol sees people watching. Why do you keep asking me if my dad is a negro? He's a negro, okay? Okay, negro, negro, negro. Calm down. Mrs. Norton says, reaching over. Don't touch her. The stewardess says. Who are these people? Someone says from the easel. Imagine talking to a child like that. And it is 1970. One woman sitting in the front of Carol stands up and turns around. Would you like to come and sit with me, little girl? No. Carol shouts. I don't like all these questions. She keeps asking me how would I color my parents in a coloring book. Why do you keep me asking that? Mrs. Norton pleads with Carol to stop.
Finally end. Now this is a really interesting and also uh, very amusing and also seeming like uh, you know the girl is more mature than those old people. No, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine, guys. Uh, we will, if you want to discuss more about it line by line, we will discuss in the next class, right? Is it okay with you?
Yes, sir, it's okay.
Yes, sir.
So that's all for the day. Meet you in the next class. Till then, bye bye. I hope you understood the whole concept that I taught you today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Bye for now.
Sir, I understood it well and good.
Okay.
Wait, where is Videsh?
He left. Good night.